Number Galactic Council is terrified. Wait, that was not their whole army, was it? The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had seen many things in its 10,000 years of existence. Wars had been declared here. Peace treaties had been signed. Entire species had joined the galactic community within these ancient walls. But never, in all those years, had the chamber fallen so completely silent. High Counselor Thelvarus stood at the central podium. His skin, normally a calm blue, had shifted to a pale gray. His four eyes blinked rapidly as he read the report again. Then he read it a third time. The words did not change. "This cannot be correct," he said finally. His voice echoed in the massive room. "There must be an error in the translation." Ambassador Kryn of the Valari Federation leaned forward in her seat. Her feathered crest, usually held high with pride, lay flat against her skull. "I have checked the translation 17 times, High Counselor. There is no error." The report was simple. 3 days ago, the Vrexian Dominion had launched an invasion of a small human colony on a frozen moon called Europa. The Vrexians were one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. Their warriors stood 8 feet tall. Their ships were fast and deadly. No species had successfully resisted a Vrexian invasion in over 200 years. The humans had been in space for less than a century. They had exactly one solar system. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards. They should have been easy prey. The Vrexian Third Fleet had arrived at Europa with 200 warships and 80,000 soldiers. It was more than enough to crush any resistance from a young species. The Vrexian commander had not even bothered to demand surrender. He had simply begun the attack. That was 72 hours ago. Now, the Vrexian Third Fleet no longer existed. "How?" demanded Counselor Rethax, slamming his armored fist on his desk. The Krillax were a warrior species themselves. They respected strength. But this was not strength. This was impossible. How does a primitive species destroy 200 Vrexian warships? What weapons do they have that we do not know about? Thelvarus shook his head slowly. According to our intelligence, they used no special weapons. Standard kinetic projectiles, standard fusion missiles, standard defensive systems. Nothing we have not seen before. Then how? They fought, Thelvarus said simply. They fought in ways the Vrexians did not expect. They used their moon's low gravity to launch ambushes. They collapsed tunnels on Vrexian soldiers. They flew their small ships directly into Vrexian engines. When their ammunition ran out, they fought with mining equipment. When their ships were destroyed, they put on pressure suits and attacked Vrexian vessels from outside, cutting through hulls with welding tools. The chamber was silent again. "But the numbers," Kryn said softly. "Our reports say the humans had only 47 ships and 12,000 soldiers on Europa, against 80,000 Vrexians." "That is correct. Then they should be dead." "They should all be dead." Thelvarus set down the report. His hands were shaking slightly. "Ambassador, the humans did suffer losses. Approximately 3,000 of their soldiers were killed. 31 of their ships were destroyed, but they did not stop fighting. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They kept fighting until every single Vrexian was dead." Counselor Rethax made a sound that might have been disbelief. "What kind of species fights like that? What kind of species takes those losses and keeps attacking?" "I do not know," Thelvarus admitted. "But there is something else. Something that concerns me more than the battle itself." He touched a control, and a holographic image appeared above the podium. It showed a human female in military uniform. She was young, with dark skin and tired eyes. Behind her, the wreckage of a Vrexian warship burned against the black sky of Europa. "This is Commander Jessica Okafor," Thelvarus said. "She led the defense of Europa. After the battle, she sent a message to the Vrexian Dominion. Our intelligence intercepted it." He played the recording. The human's voice was calm, too calm for someone who had just survived impossible odds. "This message is for the Vrexian High Command. 3 days ago your fleet attacked our colony without warning. You killed 11,000 of our civilians, including 4,000 children, before our defense force could respond. We have destroyed your fleet in return. Every ship, every soldier. Consider this a warning. If you attack our people again, we will not simply defend ourselves. We will come to your worlds. We will find everyone responsible, and we will make Europa look like mercy. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The recording ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. "She is bluffing," Counselor Rethax said finally. She must be. They barely survived this attack. They cannot threaten the Vrexian dominion. Perhaps, Thelvara said. But there is one more detail I have not shared. The force that defended Europa, the 12,000 soldiers. They were not part of the human primary military. Kryn's crest twitched. What do you mean? I mean they were what humans call reservists. Part-time soldiers. They work normal jobs most of the time. Farmers, teachers, engineers, doctors. They train for combat only a few days each month. The silence that followed was different. It was the silence of fear. Part-time soldiers, Rethax repeated slowly. You are telling me that the force which destroyed the Vrexian Third Fleet was not even their real army? Correct. And the single warship that arrived to support them, the vessel called Defiant, was not part of their main fleet either. It was a patrol ship, the human equivalent of a police vessel. Then what is their main fleet? What is their real army? Thelvara spread his hands. We do not know. Our intelligence on humanity is limited. They are a young species. We did not consider them important enough to study closely. I think, Kryn said quietly, that was a mistake. The council voted quickly. They would send a diplomatic delegation to Earth immediately. They needed to learn everything they could about humanity. They needed to understand what they were dealing with. But even as the vote was recorded, Thelvaris felt a cold weight in his stomach. He had been a diplomat for 300 years. He had met warriors and conquerors and tyrants. He had seen species that killed for pleasure and species that killed for survival. He had never seen anything like that recording. The human commander had not been angry. She had not been vengeful. She had simply stated facts. If the Vrexians attacked again, the humans would destroy them. Not might. Would. She had said it the way someone might say that water was wet or that stars were hot. It was not a boast. It was not a hope. It was a certainty. That was what frightened Thelvaris most. The humans had won an impossible victory against overwhelming odds. They had lost 3,000 of their own people. They had nearly been wiped out, and their response was not relief. It was not celebration. It was a promise of revenge. As the council chamber emptied, Thelvaris remained at the podium. He looked at the frozen image of Commander Jessica Okafor. Her eyes stared back at him, dark and calm and utterly without fear. What kind of species was this? What had the galaxy awakened? He did not know. But he was beginning to suspect that the Galactic Council, in all its ancient wisdom, had made a terrible error. They had ignored humanity. They had dismissed them as primitive and unimportant. They had allowed the Vrexians to attack them without consequence. Now, they would have to deal with the results. Thelvaris turned off the hologram and walked slowly toward the exit. Behind him, the great chamber stood empty and silent. The galaxy was about to change, and the High Counselor was not sure anyone was ready for what was coming. Galactic Council is terrified. Wait. That was not their whole army, was it? The diplomatic ship landed on Earth on a bright spring morning. Ambassador Yilrix of the Morathi Union stepped out onto the landing pad and took his first breath of alien air. It was strange, thick and wet and full of unfamiliar smells. But it was not unpleasant. Around him, his team emerged from the ship. There were 12 of them in total. Diplomats, scientists, military analysts. The best minds the council could assemble on short notice. Their mission was simple: learn everything about humanity, find their weaknesses, understand their strengths. The humans were already waiting for them. Yilrix had expected soldiers, guards with weapons, perhaps some show of force to remind the visitors who had won the Battle of Europa. Instead, he found a small group of humans in simple clothes. They were smiling, actually smiling. A female human stepped forward. She was tall for her species, with gray hair and warm brown eyes. She extended her hand, and Yilrix remembered from his briefings that this was a human greeting ritual. Ambassador Yilrix, she said. Welcome to Earth. I am Foreign Secretary Margaret Chen. We are so pleased to finally meet our galactic neighbors. Yilrix took her hand carefully. It was soft and warm, not the hand of a warrior. Thank you for receiving us, Secretary Chen. The Council sends its greetings. Please call me Margaret. We have prepared accommodations for your delegation. I am sure you must be tired from your journey. Yilrix was not tired. He was confused. These humans had just won a bloody battle against impossible odds. They had sent a message threatening revenge against the entire Vrexian dominion. He had expected anger, suspicion, military discipline. Instead, he got a smiling grandmother offering him a place to rest. The next several days were strange. The humans showed them everything. They toured cities and factories and military bases. They met soldiers and scientists and ordinary citizens. Everyone was friendly. Everyone was helpful. Everyone seemed genuinely happy to see them. It was deeply unsettling. On the fourth day, Ulrich sat down with Colonel Sarah Chen, a military liaison assigned to his delegation. She was the daughter of the foreign secretary. He had learned, a veteran of something called the Pacific War, which had been fought between human nations before they united. She had a scar on her left cheek and eyes that had seen combat. "Colonel," Ulrich said carefully, "I would like to discuss the Europa incident." "Of course." Sarah Chen poured herself a cup of dark liquid that humans called coffee. "What would you like to know?" "I would like to understand how you won." The numbers should have been impossible. 200 ships against 47, 80,000 soldiers against 12,000. Chen nodded. It was close. Very close. If the Defiant had arrived 6 hours later, we probably would have lost. The Defiant. Yes. One patrol ship turned the tide of battle. She was in the right place at the right time. Captain Morrison used her weapons to take out the Vrexian command ship. After that, their fleet lost coordination. Our ground forces were able to exploit the confusion. Ulrich leaned forward. But your ground forces, the 12,000 soldiers, my reports say they were reservists. Part-time military. That is correct. How can part-time soldiers defeat professional warriors? Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. Ambassador, let me explain something about human reservists. Yes, they have civilian jobs. Yes, they only train part-time, but most of them are veterans of our previous conflicts. They have seen real combat. And when they are called to defend their homes, their families, their children, they fight like devils. Devils, a human expression. It means they fight without mercy, without hesitation, without fear of death. Chen set down her coffee cup. The Vrexians made a mistake. They thought they were attacking civilians. They were attacking parents, brothers, sisters, people who had everything to lose and nothing to gain by surrendering. Ulrich considered this. So your reservists are not truly part-time soldiers. They are veterans who have returned to civilian life. Many of them, yes. How many veterans does humanity have? Chen was quiet for a moment. Across all our nations? Probably around 50 million. Ulrich felt his heart skip. 50 million? Give or take. We have had many wars among ourselves. Many conflicts. Every generation has its veterans. And these veterans? They can be called back to fight? Most of them could be. Yes. If the situation required it. Ulrich struggled to process this information. 50 million trained soldiers, scattered throughout civilian life, ready to be recalled at any moment. And this did not even count their active military. Colonel Chen, he said slowly. What is the size of humanity's active military? Not reserves, not veterans, active soldiers currently serving. Across all nations? Approximately 20 million. 20 million. Ulrich repeated the number. It was larger than the entire Vrexian military. And your reserves? Another 15 million, roughly. So humanity has 35 million soldiers ready to fight. Plus 50 million veterans who could be recalled. That is a rough estimate, yes. Ulrich sat back in his chair. His mind was racing. The force that had defeated the Vrexians at Europa, the 12,000 reservists and one patrol ship, represented approximately 0.03% of humanity's total military capacity. The Vrexians had been destroyed by a rounding error. There is something else, Chen said. Something you should probably know. Yes? Our civilian population. Many of them own weapons. Personal weapons for defense and hunting. Ulrich blinked. You arm your civilians? In many of our nations, yes. It is considered a right, a freedom. How many weapons? Chen shrugged. In my nation alone? Probably 400 million. Ulrich did not respond. He could not respond. 400 million weapons, in one nation, owned by civilians. We are a violent species, Ambassador, Chen said quietly. We have spent our entire history fighting each other, killing each other. We are very good at it. We have developed weapons and tactics that the galaxy has never seen. We have fought in every environment: desert, jungle, ocean, mountain, space. We have been at war, in one form or another, for as long as we can remember. She met his eyes. Her gaze was calm and steady. The Vrexians made the mistake of thinking we were weak because we were new to space. They were wrong. We are not weak. We are just getting started. That night, Ylrix gathered his team and began writing his report. It took them 3 days to complete. When they finished, Ylrix read it over one final time. The report described humanity's military in detail: active forces, reserves, veterans, civilian weapons, industrial capacity, training programs, everything they had learned. But the most important section was at the end. It was Ylrix's personal assessment, his conclusion based on everything he had observed. He had written it simply, so there could be no misunderstanding. Humanity is not a young species learning to walk among the stars. Humanity is an ancient war machine that has spent 10,000 years fighting itself. They have perfected the art of violence. They have industrialized death. And now, for the first time in their history, they are united. They are looking outward. They are looking at us. The Vrexian Third Fleet was destroyed by farmers and teachers with old weapons and one small ship. This was not humanity at war. This was humanity annoyed. The Council must understand what this means. If humanity ever truly mobilizes, if they ever turn their full attention to warfare against an external enemy, there is no force in the known galaxy that can stop them. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to fight, because if we do, we will not be fighting an army. We will be fighting a species. Ylrix signed the report and sent it to the Council. Then he walked to his window and looked out at the human city below. Lights glittered in the darkness. Vehicles moved through the streets. Millions of humans lived their lives, went to work, raised their families. They looked so peaceful. They looked so normal. And that, Ylrix realized, was the most terrifying thing of all. Galactic Council is terrified. Wait, that was not their whole army, was it? The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Every seat was filled. Every representative was present. Even the Dralith, who had not attended a council meeting in 40 years, sent an ambassador. The stakes were too high for anyone to ignore. High Counselor Thelvaris stood at the central podium. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed the contents of Ambassador Ylrix's report. Numbers, charts, images, all of it painted a picture that no one in the chamber wanted to believe. "Let me be clear about what we are facing," Thelvaris said. His voice was heavy with exhaustion. He had not slept since receiving the report. "Ambassador Ylrix has confirmed our worst fears. Humanity is not what we thought they were." He touched a control. The display changed to show a comparison chart. The Vrexian Dominion, until recently considered the greatest military power in the Outer Rim, maintains an active military force of 18 million soldiers. The Krillax Empire, our own strongest member, has 12 million. The Valari Federation has 8 million. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. Humanity has 20 million active soldiers, 15 million reserves, and 50 million veterans who can be recalled to service in an emergency. Their total potential military force exceeds 85 million. A murmur ran through the chamber. Thelvaris held up his hand for silence. "But this is not what concerns me most. Their numbers are large, yes, but numbers alone do not win wars. What concerns me is their nature, their psychology, their history." The display changed again. It showed images from human history: battles, wars, destruction. Humanity has been at war with itself for their entire existence. They have fought over land, over resources, over religion, over ideas. They have developed weapons and tactics that we have never seen. They split the atom and used it to destroy entire cities. They developed biological weapons that could kill millions. They created machines specifically designed to murder each other more efficiently. Counselor Kryn stood up. Her crest was trembling. "High Counselor, this is madness. What kind of species does this to itself?" "That is precisely my point, Ambassador. Humanity is a species forged in endless war. Violence is not something they learned. It is something they are. It is in their blood, in their bones, in their very DNA." He changed the display again. This time it showed a single human soldier. The soldier was young, male, with a determined expression on his face. This is Private James Morrison. He was one of the defenders of Europa. During the battle, his squad was surrounded by Vrexian warriors. He was out of ammunition. His weapon was destroyed. He was injured in 3 places. By all logic, he should have surrendered. He should have tried to survive. Thelvarus's voice dropped. Instead, he charged the Vrexians with a piece of broken metal. He killed 4 of them before they brought him down. 4 professional Vrexian warriors, each twice his size, killed by an injured human with a piece of scrap. Why? Someone asked from the back of the chamber. Because his friends were behind him. Because giving up was not something he was willing to do. Because humans do not surrender. They do not retreat. They do not stop. They fight until they win or they die. The chamber was silent again. There is more, Thelvarus said. Their civilian population. Ambassador Yilrix reports that in many human nations, civilians are allowed to own weapons. Personal weapons, combat weapons. In one nation alone, there are 400 million such weapons in civilian hands. Councillor Rethax made a choking sound. They arm their civilians? All of them? Not all, but many. Enough that if humanity was ever invaded, the invaders would face resistance from every direction, every street, every building, every home. The humans have a saying. Behind every blade of grass, a rifle. It means that they cannot be conquered. Not truly, because even if you defeated their military, you would still have to fight their people. All 8 billion of them. The Vorathi delegate raised a trembling appendage. High Counselor, what are you suggesting? That humanity is a threat to the entire galaxy? I am suggesting that humanity is the greatest military power we have ever encountered, and they do not even know it yet. They think they are young, weak, new to the stars. They have no idea that the force which destroyed the Vrexian Third Fleet was barely a fraction of their true strength. Then what do we do? Thelvarus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his words carried the weight of centuries of wisdom and fear. We do nothing to provoke them. We do nothing to threaten them. We welcome them as friends. We offer them trade, technology, membership in the council. We treat them with respect and kindness, and we pray that they never, ever have a reason to turn against us. And if they do? Kryn asked. Thelvarus looked at her. His face was old and tired. Then we run, Ambassador. We run as fast and as far as we can, because there is nothing in this galaxy that can stop humanity once they decide to fight. The council voted. They voted to send more diplomats to Earth. They voted to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council. They voted to begin immediate trade negotiations. They voted for everything they could think of that might make humans happy. No one voted against any of it. But even as the votes were recorded, everyone in the chamber knew the truth. They were not making friends with humanity. They were trying to avoid becoming their enemies. The session ended near dawn. Representatives filed out slowly, talking in hushed voices. Many of them looked shaken. Some looked terrified. A few looked like they might be sick. Thelvarus remained at the podium, alone in the great chamber. He stared at the holographic display, still showing images of human warfare, ships and soldiers and weapons. So much death, so much destruction. And this was just what they did to each other. What would they do to an alien enemy? What would they do to someone who killed their children and burned their worlds? Thelvarus did not want to find out. He hoped, with every fiber of his being, that the galaxy would never find out. But deep down, in a place he did not want to acknowledge, he knew the truth. Someone would eventually make a mistake. Someone would eventually provoke the humans. Someone would eventually give them a reason to fight. And when that happened, the galaxy would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Thelvarus turned off the display and walked slowly out of the chamber. Behind him, the empty room fell silent. The calm before the storm. Number Galactic Council is terrified. Wait, that was not their whole army, was it? The Krethax hegemony did not care about the Galactic Council. They never had. For 3,000 years, they had ruled the Outer Rim through fear and cruelty. They took what they wanted. They enslaved who they pleased. No one dared to oppose them. When reports reached the hegemony about the Battle of Europa, the Krethax High Command laughed. The Vrexians had always been overrated, they said. Weak, soft, defeated by primitive mammals with sticks and stones. It was a joke, but Supreme Commander Velkoth did not laugh. He saw something different in those reports. He saw opportunity. Humans, it seemed, were fighters. Strong, determined, willing to die rather than surrender. Such creatures would make excellent slaves. The best slaves, in fact. Workers who never stopped, soldiers who never retreated. A species of warriors that could be broken and bent to Krethak's will. All the hegemony had to do was conquer them first. Velkoth assembled the Grand Fleet, every warship the hegemony possessed, every soldier, every weapon, 12,000 vessels, 9 million warriors, the largest military force gathered in 300 years. The target was Earth itself. No half measures, no probing attacks, no warnings. They would arrive at the human homeworld and crush it completely. The survivors would be put in chains. Their children would be taken and raised as Krethak's property. In one generation, humanity would be nothing more than a slave race serving their betters. It was a perfect plan. The Grand Fleet departed Krethak's space on a cold morning in early spring. They traveled through hyperspace for 6 weeks, avoiding all known trade routes. The Council never detected them. No one sent warnings to Earth, but the humans knew they were coming. Admiral Chen Wei sat in his command chair aboard the UES Victory and watched the tracking display. The Krethak's fleet was still 3 days out, still thinking they had achieved surprise. They had no idea that human long-range sensors had detected their hyperspace wake 2 weeks ago. "Status report," Chen said calmly. "All fleets are in position, Admiral," his aide replied. "First through Fourth Home, fleets are holding at the lunar perimeter. Fifth Fleet is stationed in the asteroid belt. Sixth Fleet is running silent behind Mars. Ground forces, all active divisions have been deployed to defensive positions. Reserves are mobilizing worldwide. Veteran recall is at 60% and climbing." Chen nodded slowly. When the Krethaks had been detected, the United Earth Parliament had met in emergency session. The decision had been unanimous. Full mobilization. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth would fight as one. The factories had shifted to war production within hours. Ships that had been under construction were rushed to completion. Weapons that had been in storage were pulled out and distributed. Recruitment centers opened in every city, and the lines stretched around blocks. Volunteers came in millions. Young people who had never held a weapon. Old veterans who had sworn they would never fight again. Men and women and everyone in between. All of them answering the call. In 6 weeks, humanity had assembled a fighting force unlike anything it had ever created. 2,000 warships, 38 million soldiers, countless weapons and vehicles and supplies, and still more were coming. Every day, more ships launched, more soldiers completed training, more factories came online. Humanity was not just ready for war, humanity was eager for it. The Krethaks had made a mistake. They thought they were attacking a primitive species that did not know they were coming. They thought they would achieve easy victory against a soft target. They were about to learn the truth. The Grand Fleet dropped out of hyperspace on the edge of the Sol system. Supreme Commander Velkoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Krethak's Dominator, and looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. Earth was directly ahead. The human homeworld. 8 billion slaves waiting to be claimed. "Begin the advance," Velkoth ordered. "Standard conquest formation. I want the orbital defenses destroyed within 6 hours." "Yes, Supreme Commander." The Grand Fleet moved forward. 12,000 ships in perfect formation. 9 million warriors ready to fight. It was glorious. It was unstoppable. It was. "Supreme Commander. Contact. Multiple contacts." Velkoth frowned. "Clarify." "Human warships, sir. Coming from everywhere." The tactical display flickered. Red dots appeared. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Human ships rose from behind planets. Human ships emerged from asteroid fields. Human ships appeared from the darkness of space itself. They were everywhere. They were endless. Velkoth stared at the display. His confidence began to crack. "How many?" he asked quietly. The sensor officer's voice was shaking. 2,000 confirmed warships, Supreme Commander. Possibly more. They're still appearing. 2,000. Against his 12,000, that should still be acceptable odds. But something was wrong. The human ships were not running. They were not hiding. They were advancing. directly at the Grand Fleet, without fear. They are insane, Velkoth muttered. Do they not understand they are outnumbered? Then the first missiles hit. The Battle of Sol had begun. Humanity fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships moved in formations that made no sense until they suddenly did. They sacrificed vessels to create openings. They rammed disabled ships into enemy lines. They used asteroids as weapons, pushing them into the path of the Grand Fleet. And when the space battle reached its peak, the ground assault began. Human soldiers in armored suits launched themselves at Krethak's vessels. They cut through hulls with plasma torches. They fought hand-to-hand in corridors and engine rooms and bridges. They died in thousands. But they kept coming. Velkoth watched his fleet being torn apart. His perfect formation was scattered. His invincible warriors were dying. His grand conquest had become a disaster. Retreat, he ordered finally. All ships retreat. It was too late. Human ships had circled behind the Grand Fleet. They blocked the escape routes. They herded the remaining Krethak's vessels into kill zones. They showed no mercy. By the 11th day, it was over. The Grand Fleet was destroyed. 12,000 ships, reduced to debris floating in the void. 9 million warriors, dead or captured. Supreme Commander Velkoth's flagship was boarded by human marines. They found him in his command chair, unable to move, unable to speak, staring at the destruction of everything he had believed in. A human soldier stood before him. She was small, young. Her armor was dented and scorched from battle. But her eyes were steady. Supreme Commander Velkoth, she said, you are a prisoner of war, of the United Earth Forces. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to humane treatment. You have the right to legal counsel. Velkoth found his voice. You cannot win. The hegemony will send more fleets. They will avenge us. The human soldier smiled. It was not a kind smile. We're counting on it. News of the Grand Fleet's destruction reached the Krethak's hegemony 3 days later. The government collapsed within a week. Panic spread through their worlds. Riots broke out. Military commanders surrendered their forces rather than face the humans. Within a month, the entire hegemony had submitted to human authority. 9 billion Krethaks became the first species in history to willingly accept human rule rather than face human warfare. They had seen what humans could do. They never wanted to see it again. Galactic Council is terrified. Wait, that was not their whole army, was it? High Counselor Thelvaris had not slept in 3 days. He had watched the Battle of Sol from a secure observation post, along with dozens of other council representatives. They had watched humanity fight. They had watched humanity win. They had watched an empire fall in 11 days. Now, as his diplomatic shuttle descended toward Earth, Thelvaris felt something he had never felt in 300 years of service. Fear. True, deep, primal fear. The shuttle landed in a garden. A garden, of all places. Green grass and flowering trees and small birds singing in the branches. It looked peaceful. It looked beautiful. It looked like the last place in the universe where you would find the leaders of a species that had just destroyed 9 million enemy soldiers. President Amara Okonkwo was waiting for him. She was an older woman, with gray hair pulled back from her face and deep lines around her eyes. She wore simple clothes, no military uniform, no symbols of power, just a plain dress and comfortable shoes. She smiled as Thelvaris approached. High Counselor, thank you for coming. Please, sit. I have made tea. Tea. The humans had just won the greatest military victory in galactic history, and their leader wanted to serve him tea. Thelvaris sat down at a small table. The president poured him a cup of hot liquid and handed it to him carefully. He took it with trembling hands. President Okonkwo, he began, I have come to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council. Of course, the Council is concerned. Your victory against the Krethaks has changed everything. The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted. There are many who fear what humanity might do next. Okonkwo nodded slowly. I understand their fear. I would feel the same way in their position. Then perhaps you can help me understand. The force you assembled against the Krethaks. 38 million soldiers. 2,000 warships, built in 6 weeks. Thelvaris set down his teacup. His hands were shaking too much to hold it. How is this possible? We were motivated, Okonkwo said simply. The Krethaks came to enslave our people, to take our children. We responded appropriately. Appropriately. Thelvarus repeated the word. You destroyed an empire. They left us no choice. Thelvarus leaned forward. He needed to ask the question. The question that had kept him awake for 3 days. The question that every member of the council was desperate to know. President Okonkwo, I must ask you directly. The force you mobilized against the Krethax, the 38 million soldiers, the 2,000 ships. He swallowed hard. Was that your entire military capacity? Was that everything humanity could bring to bear? The president was quiet for a moment. She picked up her teacup and took a slow sip. Then she set it down and looked at him with calm, steady eyes. No, she said. Thelvarus felt his heart stop. No? That was the force we assembled in 6 weeks, using only volunteers. We did not implement conscription. We did not force anyone to serve. We simply asked for help, and our people responded. You mean there could have been more? High Counselor, humanity has something called the draft, compulsory military service. It means that in times of extreme need, we can legally require every able-bodied adult to serve in our military. We have used it twice in our history, during what we call the World Wars. The World Wars, conflicts fought among our own nations, before we were united. Terrible wars. Millions died. Entire cities were destroyed. Okonkwo's voice was soft, but her words carried weight. We do not like the draft. We do not want to use it again. But if we were forced to, she paused, if we fully mobilized, High Counselor, if we called up every soldier, every reservist, every veteran, every able-bodied civilian, if we converted every factory to war production and built ships as fast as we could. She met his eyes. We could field approximately 900 million soldiers. Given 1 year, we could construct 10,000 additional warships. Thelvarus could not speak. He could not breathe. 900 million. It was impossible. It was insane. It was more soldiers than existed in all the council militaries combined. We are a species of 8 billion. High Counselor, Okonkwo continued. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. We have become very, very good at it. The Battle of Seoul was not humanity at war. It was humanity inconvenienced. She set down her teacup. We do not want war, High Counselor. We never have. We want peace. We want trade. We want friendship. We want to explore the stars and learn from your species and share what we know. We want to join the galactic community as partners and allies. Her voice grew harder. But we will not be threatened. We will not be attacked. We will not allow anyone to harm our people, our children, our worlds. The Vrexians learned this lesson. The Krethax learned it as well. I hope that no one else needs to learn it. She leaned back in her chair. You asked if the force we assembled was our entire military capacity. The answer is no. It was approximately 4%. If anyone attacks humanity again, we will not send 4%. We will not send volunteers. We will not build ships for 6 weeks. Her eyes were cold now. Cold and hard and ancient. We will come ourselves. All of us. Every ship. Every soldier. Every weapon. And we will not stop until the threat no longer exists. Thelvarus sat in silence for a long time. The birds sang in the trees. The flowers swayed in the breeze. The tea grew cold on the table. Finally, he spoke. What would you have the council do, President Okonkwo? She smiled. The coldness faded from her eyes, replaced by warmth. Be our friends, High Counselor. Trade with us. Teach us about the galaxy. Let us learn from your wisdom and share our own. Help us become part of something greater than ourselves. She reached out and touched his hand. We have spent 10,000 years at war. We are tired of it. We want something better. Help us find it. Thelvarus looked at her. At this small, gray-haired woman who led a species of warriors, who commanded an army that could destroy civilizations, who sat in a garden drinking tea and asking for friendship. I will do my best, President Okonkwo. That is all I ask. He returned to the council chamber the next day. Every representative was waiting. Every eye was on him as he walked to the podium. What did she say? Ambassador Kryn asked. What does humanity want? Thelvarus was quiet for a moment. Then he gave his report. 3 words. Do not provoke humanity. The council voted unanimously to accept humanity as a full member. They voted to begin immediate trade agreements. They voted to share technology and knowledge and resources. They voted for everything humans could possibly want. And in the records of the Galactic Council, a new entry was added to the official threat assessment database. It listed humanity's military capacity, their history, their psychology, their determination. The entry ended with a single recommendation, written in bold letters: under no circumstances should humanity be given a reason to fully mobilize. The galaxy would not survive it. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, 8 billion humans went about their lives. They worked and loved and laughed and cried. They raised their children and built their dreams and hoped for a better tomorrow. They had no idea that they were the most terrifying species in the known universe. They had no idea that entire civilizations feared them. They just wanted to live in peace. And now, finally, the galaxy was going to let them, because the alternative was unthinkable, because humanity had sent its message, and the galaxy had received it loud and clear.